I was in Qatar when Dad's message came through. December 18th, 3 in the morning my time, and my phone lit up with words I didn't expect to see. My name's Riley. I'm 28, and I'd just finished a 6-year deployment with the Army Corps of Engineers. 6 years of desert heat, of building infrastructure in places most people couldn't find on a map, of coming home to video calls where my family looked smaller and smaller on the screen each time. I'd booked my ticket home 2 months earlier, Christmas Eve landing. I'd been counting down. The message was from my dad, short, clinical. Your mother and I have decided you're not welcome at the house anymore. Don't come home. No explanation, no context, just that. I read it 4 times. My bunkmate Marcus was asleep across from me. The generator hummed outside. I could hear boots on gravel from the compound beyond. I replied with one word, fine.
Exhales sharply. Then I called my commanding officer and asked about extending my deployment. He didn't ask why. Guys in the military don't usually ask why. But here's the thing, I should have known something was coming. There had been silence from home for weeks. Not the normal kind. The kind that means something's broken underneath. I just didn't know how broken. My mom used to write me letters. Actual physical letters, printed out and mailed to whatever base I was stationed at. She'd tell me about the neighborhood, about what she was reading, about how proud she was. I kept them all in a box under my bunk. The last one came in September. She wrote about my younger sister Emma's engagement, how happy she was, how much she wished I could be there for the wedding planning. Your father's been distant lately, she wrote, but he'll come around. He always does. That was the closest she'd gotten to admitting something was wrong. My dad and I had always been complicated. He was a contractor, built strip malls and office parks, practical man. He didn't understand why I'd joined the military instead of going into business with him. Every phone call felt like a negotiation, like he was waiting for me to admit I'd made a mistake. But my mom was different. She was the translator between us. The person who made the house feel like a place I belonged. When I was deployed, she was my anchor. She'd send care packages with her homemade cookies, write about the small things, the dog getting older, the garden doing well that year, how she'd planted sunflowers because they reminded her of me. 6 years of that, 6 years of knowing that no matter how long I was gone, there was someone waiting. Now, sitting in that Qatar bunk, I realized I hadn't heard from her in weeks either. The silence grew heavier after that message. I waited for my mom to call. She didn't. I texted Emma, just a simple, "Hey, how are you?" And she took 8 hours to respond with busy with wedding stuff. That wasn't Emma. Emma texted me paragraphs about nothing. Emma was the one who'd cried when I left for basic training. I started looking back at old messages, searching for the moment things shifted. In November, Mom had sent me a photo of the house decorated for Christmas. Dad wasn't in it. I'd thought that was just coincidence. But then I looked closer at the timestamps. Mom's emails had stopped coming all together around early December. Before the message, before the rejection, something had happened, something they all knew about. I did what soldiers do. I gathered intelligence. I called my Aunt Carol, Mom's sister. She answered like she was expecting a bomb to go off. "Riley, I can't really talk right now. What's going on at home?" Long pause. "Your father made some decisions. It's not my place." "What decisions, Carol?" Another pause, then quietly. "You need to talk to your parents about that. I'm sorry." She hung up. That's when I knew it wasn't just disappointment or anger. It was something legal, something structured. My aunt didn't sound angry at me. She sounded afraid. I stopped asking questions after that. I just waited for the phone to ring. It rang on December 23rd. Not my parents. A woman's voice, professional and detached. "Is this Riley Chen?" "Yes. This is Patricia Hoffman from Hoffman & Associates. I'm calling regarding your parents' estate. My stomach dropped. Estate. That word didn't belong in a conversation with a 28-year-old. Your father has made some changes to his will, she continued. I'm calling to inform you that you have been removed as a beneficiary. Your sister Emma is now the sole heir to the property and all assets. Your parents have also filed a restraining order preventing you from entering their residence. I couldn't process the words fast enough. I don't understand, I said. What happened? Why would he? I'm not at liberty to discuss the reasoning. I'm simply notifying you of the legal changes. The restraining order is effective immediately. If you attempt to contact or visit your parents or their property, you will be in violation of a court order. Can I talk to my parents? That's between you and them. But legally, you cannot approach the property or initiate contact. Do you understand? I said yes. I didn't understand anything. She gave me a case number and hung up. I sat there in the desert heat, holding a phone that had just told me my family had erased me. And I still didn't know why. I didn't extend my deployment. I couldn't stay in that compound pretending to work when my entire life had just collapsed. My CO approved emergency leave without asking questions. I flew back to the States on December 24th, Christmas Eve, like I'd planned. Except I booked a hotel instead of heading home. The hotel was in a town 40 minutes away from my parents' house. A chain place, anonymous, the kind of room that smells like industrial cleaner and despair. I sat on the bed and stared at my phone. 10 missed calls, all from numbers I recognized. My mom, Emma, my uncle, even my dad twice. But I couldn't call back. The restraining order was real. One wrong move and I'd be the criminal in this story. So I did something else. I called a lawyer, found one through the Bar Association who specialized in family law. I met with him on December 26th in his office downtown. His name was Robert, and he was straightforward in a way that hurt. Without knowing what prompted this, it's hard to advise, he said. But removing you from the will and filing a restraining order suggests they believe you're a threat. That's a serious accusation. I'm not a threat to anyone. I believe you, but belief isn't evidence. Do you have any idea what they think you've done? I didn't, and that was the worst part. I wasn't fighting something I'd actually done. I was fighting an accusation I couldn't even see. Robert told me to wait, to let them make the next move, to document everything. So I waited. The calls kept coming. My mom left voicemails that made me want to drive straight to the house and break the restraining order. Riley, please call me, please, I need to explain. Your father, he found something. He misunderstood. Please. Emma texted, Mom is losing it. Dad won't talk about any of it. What did you do? That question, what did you do, landed differently each time. Like maybe I had done something. Like maybe my brain was protecting me from a memory I'd blocked out. But I knew myself. I'd spent 6 years building schools and water systems in places where people had nothing. I'd come home clean. I'd always come home clean. On New Year's Eve, my mom called at midnight. I almost answered. My thumb hovered over the screen. Robert had told me not to. Any contact could be used against me. Any conversation could be twisted into evidence. So I let it ring. The next morning, I got an email from a different lawyer, this one representing my father. It was formal, accusatory. It alleged that I had engaged in financial misconduct and misappropriated family assets. The language was vague, but the intent was clear. They were building a case. I forwarded it to Robert immediately. This is interesting, he said when I called. They're being deliberately vague. That usually means they don't have specifics. But they're putting you on notice. Something's coming, Riley. And when it does, we need to be ready. I realized then that my family wasn't trying to reconcile. They were building a legal fortress. And I was on the outside, trying to figure out what I was supposedly guilty of. Robert subpoenaed their financial records. It took 3 weeks. When he called me into his office, he had printouts spread across his desk, bank statements, wire transfers, tax documents. He pointed to a series of transactions from 5 years ago. Your father made a substantial withdrawal from a joint account, $180,000. It was transferred to an account in your name. My blood went cold. I didn't authorize that. I know, but here's what happened. Your father claims he was setting up a college fund for Emma. He says he told you about it. You say he didn't. For 5 years, that money sat in that account untouched. Then, 8 months ago, someone withdrew it. That wasn't me. Robert nodded. I believe you. But the withdrawal was made from a military ATM in Germany during your deployment. There's a PIN involved. Your father claims you must have given it to someone, or that you accessed it remotely. That's impossible. I never touched that money. I know. But your father filed a report with the police claiming you embezzled it. That's why he removed you from the will. That's why the restraining order exists. I felt the room tilt. So what do? We prove you're innocent. Your deployment records show you were nowhere near Germany that day. We get the bank security footage. We trace the actual withdrawal. Someone took that money, Riley, and we're going to prove it wasn't you. You said, the security footage showed a woman, mid-50s, brunette, using a card that matched the account. It took 3 days to identify her. Her name was Diana Marsh. She'd been my father's office manager for 8 years. Robert brought in the police. They investigated quietly. Diana had been embezzling from my father's construction company for years. Small amounts, easy to hide. When my father finally noticed the discrepancies, he panicked. He couldn't admit he'd been careless enough to let it happen. So, he blamed me, the absent daughter, the military kid who he'd never quite understood anyway. Diana had used the PIN my father had carelessly written down in his office. She'd accessed the account he'd set up years ago and forgotten about. Perfect cover story. Blame the daughter, who was 3,000 miles away. The police arrested Diana on January 14th. My father's lawyer immediately contacted Robert. They wanted to settle quietly. They wanted to drop the restraining order, restore my inheritance, and make it all go away. Robert told them no. He filed a defamation suit. My mom showed up at my hotel 2 days later. She looked like she'd aged a decade. She cried. She apologized. She said my father was ashamed and couldn't face me yet. I listened. I didn't hug her. I didn't forgive immediately. The lawsuit settled 6 months later. I got my inheritance back, plus damages. My parents' reputation took a hit in the community. Emma stopped answering my calls. I got an apartment across the country and started a civilian engineering job. Sometimes my mom emails. I respond, but I keep it short. Trust, I learned, isn't something you rebuild. It's something you learn to live without.